Welcome on board, chosen one. Hold up, stop right there. This is the part they hoped would never happen. This is the moment they talked about in private, laughed about in public, and dismissed like it was impossible. You actually went there, the place they warned you not to touch. The move they said only fools try. The line they swore no one survives crossing, and you didn't just step over it. You stood there, calm, quiet, unapologetic. When they said, "They'll never do that," they were wrong. When they said, "They're not built like that," they were lying. When they said, "Watch them crawl back," they were projecting. Look who's silent now. Look who's suddenly busy. Look who can't meet your eyes anymore. The same people who mocked you, measured you, underestimated you, now whisper your name like it's a problem they can't solve. They wanted obedience. They got independence. They wanted fear. They got precision. They wanted you small. You became unavoidable. Let's talk about the pain they caused first, because pretending it didn't hurt is a cute lie. You remember the laughs that came a second too late, the compliments with poison hidden inside, the way they watched you struggle and called it character building. The way they benefited from your patience, your silence, your restraint. You paid in stress, isolation, nights where your mind wouldn't shut up. They paid nothing until now, because something shifted and they felt it before you did. The room feels different when you walk in now. Conversations pause, phones flip face down, jokes change tone. That's not respect yet. That's fear wearing a polite smile. They sense the aftermath, even if they don't understand the cause. You're standing where the storm already passed, and they're still checking the weather. They tried effort. It didn't work. They tried ignoring you. Failed. They tried copying you, embarrassing. They tried pushing you back into the box they built. Cute attempt. Here's the cold fact they don't want to admit. Nothing they did stopped you. It trained you. Every delay sharpened your timing. Every betrayal refined your judgment. Every lie forced you to see patterns most people die without noticing. You didn't win by screaming. You won by watching. You didn't react. You calculated. And right here, right now, if this message is hitting a little too close, press like and subscribe, not as a favor to me, but as a way of backing this signal, strengthening this voice, and letting the universe know you're part of this movement. You didn't come this far to stay quiet now. Good. Back to it. What scares them most isn't what you did, it's how you did it. No announcement, no drama, no begging for approval. You moved in silence while they stayed busy underestimating you. That's why they're freaking out now. They expected noise. They got results. They expected emotion. They got control. There's a reason they keep replaying old moments in their head. The time they laughed, the time they dismissed you, the time they thought they were smarter. Those memories are sharp now, because hindsight is brutal when you were wrong. You didn't change overnight. You were becoming this the whole time. They just weren't paying attention. Here's a truth no one likes to say out loud. Some people only respect power once it's undeniable. Before that, they call it ego. Before that, they call it luck. Before that, they call you crazy. But once the shift happens, once the results speak, once the silence hits, suddenly it was obvious all along. No, it wasn't obvious. It was earned. You're not celebrating yet, and that's what makes this dangerous. You're calm, focused, detached. That scares them more than anger ever could. Anger burns fast. Calm lasts. Calm plans. Calm finishes things. They keep asking each other, what nightmare did we create? Without realizing they built it piece by piece. You're not here to destroy randomly. You're here to end cycles, to close doors that should have never been open, To prove that quiet people aren't weak, they're observant. That patience isn't softness, it's preparation. That when someone finally stops playing the role they were given, the entire script collapses. This isn't a speech, this is a reveal, a slow one, the kind that makes sense only after it's too late to stop. You're not chasing revenge, you're walking forward, and everything behind you is shaking because it knows it can't follow. They thought you'd break. You adapted. They thought you'd fold. You learned the game. They thought you needed permission. You never did. Welcome to the aftermath. The part where the noise dies down, the truth settles in, and everyone realizes the same thing at once. You were never the problem. You were the consequence. Now pause for half a second. Not because the energy dropped, because this is the doorway. This is the moment where people who are just entertained leave, and the ones who actually went there stay. You didn't stumble into this message by accident. You felt the pull because something in you already crossed the line that made them panic. And once you cross it, there's no going back to pretending, no returning to comfort, no unseeing what you now see. So listen carefully, chosen one. If you're ready to stop playing nice, stop shrinking your presence, and fully understand why they're freaking out and what kind of nightmare you just gave birth to, prove it with a small move. Drop the number 777 in the comments. Not for luck, not for show, but as a signal. A quiet, I'm still here. A mark that says you're willing to stay long enough to hear the truth most people run from. Because from here on, we go step by step. No skipping, no rushing. Each layer gets peeled back. Each move you made gets explained. Each reaction they're having starts to make uncomfortable sense. And if you're truly built for this path, you'll feel it. That pressure to stay, that calm curiosity, that sense of, yeah, this is exactly what's been happening. Good. Take a breath. We're going deeper now. Number 1. Your kindness was never weakness. It was the final warning they ignored. You mistook my patience for permission. That was your first and last mistake. Let's rewind slowly, because this part matters more than they'll ever admit. There was a time when you were kind, not fake kind, not polite for approval kind, real, dangerous kindness. The kind that listens, gives space, absorbs pressure, and still chooses restraint. You played by their rules, even when the rules were bent against you. You stayed respectful when they were sloppy. You stayed calm when they tested you. And they looked at that calm and thought, easy target. That's where they messed up. Because your kindness wasn't softness, it was data collection. When they spoke out of line and you smiled, that wasn't weakness. That was you taking notes. When they crossed boundaries and you didn't explode, that wasn't fear. That was you learning how far they'd go if unchecked. Every joke at your expense, every moment of disrespect disguised as humor, every time they tried to humble you in public while benefiting from you in private, it all went into a mental file. You didn't forget. You didn't forgive prematurely. You observed. The first warning you gave them was gentle. Too gentle for people like that. A pause, a change in tone, less availability, less emotional access. They noticed, but instead of correcting themselves, they mocked it. Look, who's trying to be tough? They laughed because they've always confused silence with surrender. They thought strength only comes loud, messy, and dramatic. They didn't understand the kind that sharpens quietly. Then came the second warning, colder, cleaner. You pulled back without an explanation. No arguments, no speeches, no emotional performance, just distance. That's when the panic should have started, but arrogance delays awareness. They called it a phase. They told each other, they'll come crawling back. They always do. That sentence alone tells you everything about how they saw you. Not as a person, as a pattern they thought they owned. Here's the part that hits them hardest now. While they were laughing, you were studying. While they were comfortable, you were adapting. While they were assuming control, you were mapping leverage. Your silence wasn't empty. It was loaded. It wasn't retreat. It was positioning. You were learning who talks too much, who leaks information, who folds under pressure, who hides insecurity behind arrogance. You weren't being passive. You were becoming precise. They keep asking themselves the same question now, even if they'll never say it out loud. When did they change? That's the wrong question. You didn't change. You stopped wasting kindness on people who saw it as a resource to drain. You stopped offering softness to those who only respected force. That's not transformation. That's correction. Let's address what the chosen ones are thinking at this point. Was I wrong for being kind first? Did I make a mistake by giving them chances? No, that kindness is exactly what made what came next so devastating. Anyone can be aggressive from the start. That's expected. But restraint followed by resolve, that confuses people. That disarms them. That makes them underestimate the fallout. You let them see the best version of you first, so they'd never forget what they lost access to. And now they replay it. The moments they pushed you, the lines they crossed because you didn't snap back. They realize too late that you weren't incapable of destruction. You were capable of control. And when control leaves the room, it doesn't announce itself. It just locks the door behind it. Here's the truth they're choking on now. Your kindness was the warning shot, the calm before they forced the storm. You gave them every chance to adjust, to respect, to course correct. They didn't listen because listening requires humility, and humility was never their strength. They mistook your patience for an infinite supply. They thought they could keep taking without consequence. They were wrong. Now they're dealing with the version of you that no longer explains themselves, the version that doesn't argue, doesn't plead, doesn't try to be understood, the version that moves clean, deliberate, and final. That's the nightmare they're freaking out about, not because you're cruel, but because you're done being available to disrespect. Think about it. They never feared your anger. They feared your clarity. They feared the moment you stopped reacting and started choosing, because once you choose, they lose access. Once you choose, the dynamic flips. Once you choose, all their old tricks stop working. Guilt fails, gaslighting collapses, manipulation dies without an audience. And here's the metaphor they'll never escape. You were the quiet alarm they ignored, the subtle crack in the wall they laughed at, the pressure gauge they refused to check. They thought disasters only come loud and obvious. They didn't realize the most dangerous ones arrive calm, controlled, and justified. You didn't become cold overnight. You became exact. You didn't harden for no reason. You hardened because softness kept being abused, and the universe doesn't punish kindness. It punishes disrespect of it. You're not the villain for responding to repeated disrespect with boundaries that bite. You're the consequence of ignored warnings. So if you're sitting there wondering, why are they acting so different now? Why the fear? Why the whispers? This is why. They finally understand that the version of you they took lightly is gone. Not angry, not bitter, just unreachable. Your kindness was the first warning. Your silence was the second. What came after is what happens when people don't listen. And the scariest part for them, you didn't even raise your voice. Number 2. You didn't just survive their attacks, you studied them and took the instructions. They handed you the blade, laughed while you bled, and still can't figure out how you learned to cut so clean. This is where the story turns uncomfortable for them, so let's slow it down and make them sit with it. There was a phase where everything hurt more than it should have. Every word landed wrong. Every silence felt loud. Every betrayal felt personal. They thought they were breaking you. They told themselves this will finish them. What they never realized is that pain doesn't just hurt. Pain teaches, and you were paying attention. Every tear was data, not dramatic data, not poetic nonsense, real information. You noticed who smiled when you struggled. You noticed who vanished when things got hard. You noticed who enjoyed having power over your emotional state. You didn't just feel it, you studied it. You learned patterns. You learned timing. You learned how people behave when they think they're winning. Here's the part they hate the most. You didn't learn strength from books or speeches. You learned it from them, from their manipulation, from their lies, from their cruelty wrapped in jokes. They taught you exactly where people are fragile while pretending to be strong. They taught you how ego works, how insecurity hides behind volume, how confidence collapses when exposed to calm truth. And now they're realizing their biggest mistake wasn't hurting you, it was training you. They used pressure and you learned leverage. They used control and you learned freedom. They used chaos and you learned precision. Ask yourself the question you've been thinking quietly. How did I suddenly know exactly what to do? That's not sudden. That's accumulated awareness. That's years of watching, absorbing, connecting dots while pretending not to see anything at all. You didn't snap. You assembled. Imagine this. Someone keeps pushing the same door, harder and harder, laughing when it doesn't open. They don't notice you're quietly removing the hinges. One day, they push again, and the entire thing collapses forward. They stand there confused, asking what happened. What happened is you learned the structure. Another image. They kept throwing stones, thinking you were just shielding yourself. They didn't realize you were weighing each stone, memorizing the weight, the shape, the throw. So when you finally threw one back, it didn't miss. It didn't bounce. It landed exactly where it needed to. This is why that move you made scared them. Not because it was loud, because it was accurate. You didn't lash out. You didn't lose control. You didn't even look emotional. You applied pressure in the one place they couldn't defend. Maybe it was the truth you calmly stated while everyone was listening. Maybe it was the success you built quietly while they were distracted. Maybe it was the version of you that showed up disciplined, detached, and unbothered. Whatever it was, it hit a nerve they didn't know was exposed. And the room changed. You felt it, didn't you? That shift in the air, that moment when the laughter stopped being casual, when jokes died halfway through sentences, when eyes lingered a little too long. That wasn't admiration yet. That was recalculation. That was them realizing the mouse learned how the trap works. Let's answer another question you've been asking yourself. Was it wrong to use what they taught me against them? No. That's survival. The universe doesn't reward ignorance. It rewards adaptation. You didn't become cruel. You became competent. You didn't mirror their chaos. You refined it into control. Here's a quote they'll never escape. You don't fear the loud enemy. You fear the quiet one who finally understands the game. They assumed you were emotional. They assumed you were reactive. They assumed pain made you unstable. What they missed is that pain made you observant. While they were focused on winning moments, you were focused on winning outcomes. While they were enjoying short-term dominance, you were learning long-term influence. Imagine a boxer who gets hit over and over in the same spot. The crowd laughs, the opponent gets confident, but the boxer isn't just taking hits. He's learning rhythm, distance, timing, then one clean counter ends the match. The crowd calls it luck. The opponent calls it unfair. Only the boxer knows it was inevitable. That's you. They still don't understand how you knew exactly when to move, how you knew exactly what to say, how you knew exactly what not to do. They keep asking each other, how did they change so fast? You didn't. You just stopped hiding what you learned. Here's another truth. You never wanted revenge. You wanted balance. You wanted the scales corrected. You wanted the nonsense to stop. And the fastest way to end manipulation isn't to scream about it. It's to outgrow it so cleanly that it collapses on itself. Quote this one slowly. They didn't create a monster. They created a mirror they can't look into. Now they're nervous around you, not because you threaten them, because you see them fully, without emotion clouding your judgment. You know who bluffs. You know who panics under pressure. You know who depends on noise to hide emptiness. That knowledge alone shifts power. Another image. Think of a chess player who keeps sacrificing pieces early, letting the opponent feel smart. The opponent grows arrogant, stops thinking, then suddenly realizes the board is locked and there's no escape. Checkmate didn't come from aggression. It came from understanding. That's what you did. And yes, if you're wondering, why do they seem so uneasy now, even when I say nothing? Because silence from someone who understands is terrifying. They don't know if you'll speak. They don't know if you'll act. They don't know what you know. Uncertainty is the tax they now pay. Here's another quote they'll feel in their chest. The most dangerous upgrade isn't strength, it's clarity. You learned their weapons better than they did because they used them carelessly. You treated each wound like a lesson, each betrayal like a blueprint, each loss like a rehearsal. They thought pain weakens people. It doesn't. Pain reveals who's willing to learn. Final image. Imagine someone teaching you how to drown by holding your head underwater. They don't notice you learning how long you can last, how to stay calm, how to save oxygen. So when they try again, you don't panic. You surface stronger, controlled, untouchable. That's the nightmare they're freaking out about. Not that you suffered, but that you learned. Number 3. You didn't snap, you released what they built and lost control of. You don't get to beg for mercy from the monster you personally trained. This was the moment everything became real, not loud, not dramatic, real. You showed them just enough, a controlled glimpse, a calculated reveal, not the full force, just the outline. And their reaction gave you the confirmation you didn't even know you were waiting for. Panic, backpedaling, that sudden, desperate tone. Please don't do this. This isn't you. We can fix it. That line always comes from the same place. Fear, not guilt. Fear. They weren't trying to save you. They were trying to put the monster back in the cage after realizing they left the door open. Too late. You saw it in their eyes. The moment they understood, they misjudged how far you'd go once you stopped caring about approval. The moment they realized you weren't bluffing anymore. And here's the part that hits hardest. You didn't feel rage. You felt clarity. That calm smile that doesn't reach the eyes. The one that says, "You should have protected me when I was kind." That smile terrifies people because it means the emotional leash is gone. No guilt, no hesitation, just choice. So you did it again, cleaner, sharper, bigger. You didn't repeat the move, you escalated it. You took everything they taught you about manipulation, pressure, timing, and used it with discipline, not chaos, precision. You didn't burn the house down. You removed the support beams and let gravity do the rest. Imagine this. Someone teaches you how to build traps, laughing while you stumble through them. One day, they walk into the same room and realize the floor plan changed. Same materials, different architect. That's when the fear hits. They accuse you of changing. They say, "This isn't who you are." That's the lie people tell when they finally see who you've always been without restraints. You didn't become cruel, you became accurate. You didn't lose control, you gained it. Here's the truth they can't outrun. You didn't unleash a monster, you stopped protecting them from it. You became the mirror they couldn't smash because it showed too much. The echo they couldn't silence because it carried their own words back to them. The consequence they can't escape because it's built from their actions. And the scariest part for them, you're still calm. Number 4, you left the room and took the peace with you. You didn't disappear. You detonated quietly and let the shockwave live rent-free in their head. This is where it turned psychological. You didn't stay to argue. You didn't linger to explain. You didn't hang around to be understood. You left, clean, final, and somehow that did more damage than anything you ever said or did. Your absence became a presence they couldn't escape. Silence became loud. Space became suffocating. They wake up with you already on their mind, not because you reached out, because you didn't. You became the unanswered question looping in their head, the version of reality where things went differently. The moment they replay at 2 a.m., thinking, if only I hadn't pushed them that far. That's the nightmare, not revenge, not confrontation, regret. Imagine this, you pull a single brick out of a wall and walk away. The wall doesn't fall right away, so they laugh, they relax, then cracks start appearing days later. Floors tilt, doors jam, they panic, but you're already gone. That's what your absence did. You removed the piece holding their comfort together. They tell themselves stories to cope. They're probably miserable, they'll be back, they needed us. But those lies rot fast when evidence shows up. You didn't collapse. You didn't beg. You didn't chase closure. You moved forward, quietly. And that terrifies people who rely on being needed to feel powerful. Here's the truth they can't swallow. You weren't haunting them on purpose. You were just living well without them. Another image. Think of a predator that loses its prey and suddenly realizes it doesn't know how to hunt anything else. That's them now. Directionless, restless, checking shadows, watching doors, wondering if they misjudged the wrong person. You became the what if they can't silence, the I should have that ruins their mornings, not because you're chasing them, because you stopped existing on their terms. And here's the final blow. You didn't need to stay to win. You just needed to leave. That's when absence becomes power. Number 5. You broke the pattern, and their world can't load anymore. You didn't outplay them. You exited the system they were still trapped inside. This is the stage where confusion replaces confidence. They used to think they had you mapped, predictable, reactive, easy to read. They believed your emotions followed a script they wrote. Push here, you respond there. Say this, you feel that. But now, nothing connects. Their mental model of you crashes every time they try to run it. They refresh, they recheck, they replay old conversations like corrupted files. They analyze your words, then your silence, then the space between the two. They look for patterns because patterns gave them control. And you took that away. You didn't just change behavior, you broke predictability. Imagine someone memorizing every move in a game, only to realize you're no longer playing the game. The board is gone, the rules don't apply, their strategy becomes useless overnight. That's the glitch, not chaos. A system error caused by you no longer fitting the frame. They tell themselves, we knew them so well, that belief was their comfort. Now it's gone. Because the version of you they studied doesn't exist anymore. You stopped feeding them reactions. You stopped giving emotional data. You stopped confirming their assumptions, and without input, their control system fails. Here's the part they can't accept. You didn't become mysterious. You became uninterested. Another image. Think of someone trying to unlock a phone that's been wiped clean. No passcode works, no fingerprint registers. They start doubting the device instead of admitting the data is gone. That's them. Staring at a blank screen, wondering when everything stopped responding. They accuse you of playing games. You're not. Games need opponents. You moved into a different dimension of thinking. While they're still planning moves, you're adjusting principles. They're playing chess. You're playing physics. Final truth for this section. When someone can't predict you, they can't control you. And when control dies, fear takes its place. That's the glitch. Next to naman sa skip. You're not haunting them, you're charging interest. This is where it crosses from emotional to irreversible. You're not in the room, yet you're still the reference point. Every conversation they have bends back to you. Friends ask questions they dodge. Family notices the shift they can't explain. New faces come and go, but none of them land the same. None of them bring the weight you brought. None of them challenge the way you did. And that comparison eats at them quietly. Here's the part that hurts their ego the most. You didn't need to stay relevant. You became the standard. Every connection after you feels watered down. Every laugh feels thinner. Every bond feels rushed. Not because those people are bad, but because they don't touch the same depth. You raised the bar without trying, and now everything else scrapes the floor. Imagine this. Someone deletes a core file from their system and keeps wondering why nothing runs right anymore. They install updates, they reboot, they blame the software, but the problem isn't external. The problem is the missing piece they took for granted. That's you, the error message they can't clear. They tell themselves they've moved on, but then a small moment hits, a tone, a habit, a silence, and suddenly you're back in their head without warning. That's not nostalgia, that's consequence. You didn't threaten, you didn't curse, you simply removed yourself, and their reality never recalibrated. Here's a quote that lands clean. You weren't unforgettable because you tried. You were unforgettable because you were real. Another image. Think of a virus that doesn't crash the system immediately. It runs quietly, slowing everything down, draining performance, making normal tasks feel heavy. That's the presence you left behind. Undetectable, persistent, permanent. And if you're wondering, why does it still feel like I matter even though I'm gone? It's because impact doesn't need proximity. Some people don't leave scars. They leave blueprints burned into memory. Final truth for this section. You didn't become cruel. You became consequence. Number 7. You didn't level up. You left the map they were stuck on. You didn't beat them at their game. You made the game irrelevant. There was a time when they thought they held everything. The story, the leverage, the last word. They decided how things looked, how you were framed, how others should see you. And for a while, it worked. Not because they were powerful, but because you were still playing inside their dimension. Same rules, same gravity, same limits. That's over now. Look at the table. It's empty. No cards, no audience, no referee. Because you didn't flip the game. You walked away from it. You stopped responding not out of bitterness, but because response requires belief that the exchange matters. And it doesn't anymore. Here's the truth they choke on daily. You didn't ignore them to hurt them. You ignored them because you outgrew the conversation. Imagine ants fighting over territory on the ground while a bird lifts off. The ants think the bird surrendered because it disappeared. They don't realize it changed altitude. That's what happened here. You didn't lose power. You left the range where their weapons work. They still talk, still speculate, still try to pull you back with opinions, rumors, reactions, but none of it lands. It's like shouting at a plane from the street. The noise never reaches the cockpit. You found something they never had. Wholeness, not ego, not validation, completion. And when someone becomes complete, they stop negotiating their worth. They stop defending their choices. They stop explaining exits. You might have wondered, why don't I feel the urge to respond anymore? Because you're not unfinished. Unfinished people argue, finished ones move. Final truth for this section. You didn't transcend to look superior. You transcended because staying small was no longer survivable. Number 8. They kept lying, but reality stopped believing them. They can rewrite the story 1,000 times. Reality still remembers who changed. This is the phase where desperation gets loud. When control slips, people reach for stories. They rewrite timelines, edit facts, recast themselves as victims and you as the villain. They speak with confidence, hoping volume will replace truth. And for a moment, they think it's working. Old tricks, familiar moves, damage control. But something's different now. People aren't buying it. Not because you defended yourself, not because you explained, but because your presence contradicts their version of events. Lies need agreement to survive, and your energy refuses to agree. You walk different. You speak less. You move with a steadiness that doesn't match the picture they're trying to sell. That mismatch exposes everything. Here's a quote that lands where it hurts. You don't beat lies by arguing. You beat them by becoming undeniable. Imagine someone insisting a building is fine while everyone can see the cracks spreading across the walls. That's what their narrative sounds like now. Forced, rehearsed, overworked. Meanwhile, you're not campaigning. You're not correcting rumors. You're not chasing perception. You're just living. And that calm authenticity dismantles their story faster than confrontation ever could. Another image. Think of counterfeit money. It might pass in low light, in a rush, with careless hands, but under real inspection, it fails instantly. Your transformation is that inspection. The closer people look, the clearer the truth becomes. They accuse you of changing personalities, of becoming cold, of being distant, but observers notice something else: stability, alignment, confidence without noise. That's not an act, that's integration. You're not trying to look powerful, you're resting in it. And if you're wondering, why does it feel like I don't need to defend myself anymore? Because truth that's embodied doesn't require protection, it protects itself. Final truth for this section: when your energy outgrows lies, the lies don't fight back. They fade. Number 9. You stopped fighting and let time finish them. You didn't come back for revenge, you came back as proof. This is where the story ends for them, even if they don't know it yet. You didn't win the way they expected. No public humiliation, no dramatic showdown, no victory speech. You changed the definition of winning itself. And that's what makes this unbearable for them. They prepared for conflict. They weren't prepared for inevitability. You moved forward, and every step you took made their past decisions heavier. Every win you had didn't just elevate you, it exposed the distance between who they stayed and who you became. You're not rubbing it in, you're not flexing. You're simply existing at a level they can't reach anymore, and that feels like punishment. Here's the quiet truth: you didn't hurt them. You outgrew the version of reality where they mattered. Imagine racing someone who suddenly disappears ahead of the curve. No finish line, no rematch, just dust and silence. You don't know if you lost, but you know you can't catch up. That's what your life became to them, a reminder they can't compete with because it's already gone. They scroll, they compare. They wonder how you did it so clean. Every success you have feels like salt, not because you intended it that way, but because they know the role they played in forging it. They see your discipline and remember your patience. They see your confidence and remember the nights they tried to shake you. You chose silence over screaming, indifference over hatred, absence over explanation, and that's why it worked. Hatred keeps people tied together. Indifference cuts the cord completely. Final truth for this section: your existence became revenge because you no longer needed one. Number 10. They tried to shatter you. You learned how to flow around everything. They aimed for your spine. You turned into something with no spine to snap. They wanted a clean break, a crack they could point to, a moment where you folded and proved them right. Instead, you did something far more unsettling. You stopped being rigid. You stopped letting their pressure decide your shape. You adapted. You flowed. And once that happened, they lost every advantage they thought they had. Force only works on things that resist the way you expect. You didn't resist. You moved. You slipped past labels, past expectations, past limits they tried to draw around you. They kept trying to define you because definition is control. And every time they thought they had you pinned down, you showed up different. Same core, new form. Here's the quote that rattles them: you can't break what refuses to stay still. Imagine punching water. The harder you swing, the less damage you do. All you're left with is exhaustion and wet hands. That's what they're dealing with now. Their tactics don't land. Their words don't stick. Their pressure doesn't bruise. You absorb, redirect, and keep moving. This didn't just change your relationship with them, it shifted the entire environment around you. People noticed, conversations changed tone, alliances started forming quietly, some leaned closer to you, others backed away. Comfort hates movement because movement exposes stagnation. They whisper now, they're dangerous, not because you threaten, because you represent what happens when someone refuses to be boxed. You're proof that survival doesn't require hardness, it requires adaptability. And adaptability scares systems built on control. You might be wondering, why does it feel like everything around me is rearranging? Because when one person stops breaking, the pressure has to go somewhere else. You became unbreakable, not by becoming harder, but by becoming impossible to hold. Final truth for this section. They feared your strength. They should have feared your fluidity. Number 11. You cut the last cord, and they lost all access. They didn't lose you when you left. They lost you when you stopped needing them. This is the part they never planned for. They prepared for anger. They expected resentment. They even hoped for hate, because hate still means connection. What they got instead was emotional independence. And that terrifies people who survive on influence. You reached a state where their reactions don't register and their opinions don't land. Not because you're numb, because you're full. There was a time when their approval mattered, when a message from them could shift your mood, when silence from them felt heavy. That version of you is gone, not healed into softness, but integrated into strength. Their attention now feels intrusive, like noise in a room you finally made quiet. Their validation would feel like contamination, not comfort. Here's the quote that ends it for them. You didn't stop caring out of spite. You stopped caring because you outgrew the need. Imagine someone trying to pull a lever that no longer connects to anything. They keep yanking harder, convinced effort will bring response. It doesn't. The mechanism is gone. That's your emotional state now. Self-contained, stable, untouchable. They sense it. That's why their presence feels awkward now. That's why conversations feel forced. That's why they don't know how to position themselves around you. They can't reach you emotionally, and without that access, they have nothing to work with. You might be thinking, is it normal that I don't feel anything toward them anymore? Yes. Indifference isn't emptiness. It's resolution. It's what happens when a chapter actually closes instead of bleeding into the next one. Final truth for this section: you didn't shut down. You powered yourself independently. Number 12. You erased the timeline and left them stuck inside it. You didn't move on. You rewired the before, broke the now, and collapsed the after. This is the final consequence they never saw coming. You didn't just leave their life, you infected the timeline. Their past is no longer comforting because it exposes how wrong they were. Every memory now carries a second meaning. Every moment they once felt powerful feels suspicious. They replay old scenes, not with pride, but with doubt. Was that the moment we lost them? Was that when we pushed too far? The past doesn't soothe them anymore. It indicts them. Their present is worse. They're alert in all the wrong ways. Paranoid, overthinking, reading into everything because they know what it feels like to underestimate someone who's quietly evolving. They check reactions, measure words, watch faces. Not because danger is near, but because it already happened. You taught them that reality can flip without warning. Here's the truth they can't outrun. You didn't haunt their present by staying. You did it by leaving unfinished business in their head. Imagine building a house on ground that suddenly starts shifting. You can decorate it, you can invite people in, but you never feel safe. Every creak sounds like collapse. That's their present, built on a foundation you cracked and never returned to repair. And the future? That's where the terror lives, because they can't see it clearly anymore. You were the reference point, the constant, the known variable. Without you, every plan feels unstable. Every projection feels wrong. They don't know what kind of world they're heading into because the version of reality that included you doesn't exist anymore. You might be wondering, why does it feel like my absence echoes everywhere? Because impact doesn't obey time. When someone changes the structure, everything connected to it shifts. Final truth for this section. You didn't just transform yourself. You rewrote the reality they were relying on. Number 13. You turned into the option they can't delete from their mind. You didn't stay as a memory. You became a possibility they can't unlearn. This is where it really messes with them. You're no longer just someone who left. You're proof that the limits they accepted were never real. And once the mind sees that, it can't unsee it. That's why you're everywhere for them now. Not physically, psychologically, in strangers who remind them of you, in quotes that hit too close, in random moments where your name almost slips out before they catch themselves. You became the question that ruins certainty. Imagine convincing yourself for years that a locked door was permanent, only to watch someone walk straight through it. The door didn't move. The belief did. That's what you did to their reality. You didn't attack it. You disproved it. And disproof is lethal to fragile egos. Your silence is what breaks them now. Not yelling, not explanations. Silence. They poke, they test, they provoke. They want a reaction so badly because reaction means relevance, and you give them nothing. No response, no signal, no emotional feedback, just absence. And absence, when intentional, becomes judgment. Here's the line they can't escape. Silence from someone who knows their power is louder than any insult. They argue with air now, replaying conversations that never happen, writing messages they never send, imagining responses you'll never give. That loop doesn't stop because there's no closure. You didn't slam the door. You vanished behind it. And now you're locked into their future. Every new connection gets compared, every win measured, every attempt to move on quietly evaluated against the growth they watched you achieve. You're the high score on the screen, still there, untouched. Final truth for this section. You didn't prove them wrong once. You became proof they can't escape. Number 14, you didn't inspire. You triggered a chain reaction they can't contain. One person refusing to break doesn't look heroic at first. It looks dangerous. Then it spreads. This is where it stopped being about you as an individual. The moment you didn't collapse, others noticed. Quietly at first. From a distance, they watched how you took pressure and didn't fold, how you lost things and didn't lose yourself, how you walked away without begging for permission to survive. That observation changed them, because proof is louder than motivation. You didn't start a trend. Trends fade. You created permission. People who felt trapped started questioning their cages. People who normalized disrespect started feeling uncomfortable with it. People who thought endurance meant suffering started realizing endurance could mean refusal. You didn't preach. You didn't recruit. You just existed as evidence that breaking wasn't the only outcome. Here's the quote that scares systems built on control. When one person survives the impossible loses authority. Imagine a room full of people told their whole lives that escape is impossible. One person leaves, doesn't look back, doesn't apologize. The room never feels the same again. Even if no one else leaves immediately, the idea is planted. And ideas are dangerous. They want to believe this was about them, that they mattered, that they were the villains who created the hero. They weren't. They were friction, pressure, conditions, nothing more. Diamonds don't thank the ground for crushing them. Steel doesn't praise the fire. You don't owe meaning to what tried to destroy you. Let them panic now. Let them scramble to understand what they unleashed. They're trying to solve you like a puzzle, not realizing the point was never to be understood. The point was to move forward and make stagnation uncomfortable for everyone watching. Final truth of this section: you didn't just go there once. You proved it wasn't a fluke. And now the universe has witnesses. You're not done. So here's the quiet ending they never prepared for. No explosion, no speech, just certainty settling in. You went there, crossed the line, and kept walking while they stayed frozen, still arguing with a past version of you that no longer exists. This wasn't chaos, this was evolution, and it's already done its damage. If this hit you, don't scroll past it like it was luck. Back this message, like the video, subscribe so this signal stays alive. Drop 77 in the comments if you're still standing and still becoming, and share this with someone who's about to go there too.